Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Grindhouse. Grindhouse is brought to you by Everything Epic Games. It's for 2 to 6 players, ages 17 and up, and games range anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. You and your fellow players receive a mysterious invitation from a man known as the host to come and participate in the contest, the infamous contest known as the Grindhouse. If you survive the night, you will be awarded $10 million. But that's the key. You and your fellow players, or maybe just you, must survive the night. So yes, this truly is a survival horror game. And not only must you survive the night, but you have to survive the night with the least amount of wounds in order to win the game. Now there's several other types of win conditions that we'll take a look at, but in general, the player who has the least amount of wounds will be the winner. The game is played over 5 rounds, or really trying to survive 5 rooms in the Grindhouse. Each player receives a character board, and on the character board is how you'll be tracking your damage. You get a deck of cards that will help you with this, showing some minor damage to some severed limbs and damaged torsos and the head even. So there's lots of nasty damage that can happen based on what you're doing in the Grindhouse. And then each player receives 2 persona cards and 2 item cards. And then you have to pick one of each of these, and that's kind of the basis for your character. And then you're going to set up the rooms, and there's 2 different types of rooms. You have the final rooms, and you have the standard rooms. The final room is like the boss level room. It's the final, in the final round, the 5th round, where you have to deal with the big bad room of the Grindhouse. And you're going to lay these cards out in order. You're going to put the 4 standard rooms out, and then a final room, which will really set the tone and may decide the game in the end. However, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can just lay out the cards like that and go for it. Or the game allows for you to also deal out 2 cards per room, and as the turns progress, you go into a voting system to decide which room is chosen, and it's only based on the title. You never know what's going to be behind the door. Okay, let's take a look at these persona cards before we go any further, because these really kind of dictate the tone of what you're personally trying to do to win or help others win, maybe, in order to give you the advantage at the end of the game. So your persona cards might be flipped at certain times depending on where you are in the game, and you may choose to flip them to gain benefits, so it's varied as well. And you have things like the doctor, who it's in the doctor's best interest to have everyone survive and tries to heal them because the doctor gets extra points for every survivor at the end of the game. And then you have the runner, who is trying to keep their legs intact. You know, they're trying to get extra points for healthy legs. So each of these personas really do some very different things. And it's important to note too that if you are a ghost, if you have been killed in the Grindhouse, then you still have potential to win the game, and all the ghost conditions can really change up how you play as well, so everyone stays engaged even if you have, been eliminated by the Grindhouse. Now, gameplay is very straightforward. This is definitely a lighter game, but there is lots of story-driven thematic things going on here. And the first thing you're going to do in your turn is you're going to flip over the first room, or choose one of the 2 rooms to flip over. And once you flip it over, you pick someone that's going to be the story, the narrator at the table, or you can have each player do it in turn. And in this case, we're going to flip over the bedroom. And this is one of my favorites, actually. You run into this old man. He's lying in bed, deathly ill, and he's desperate for a drink of water. So you have to roll a 6-sided dice to see what the outcome of this is. And then what's interesting here is that in this particular room, you have to elect someone at the table to take on this task. And the rooms are going to do very different things. Everyone may have to participate in a task that requires you to roll a dice or something else. And there's other rooms that carry over from room to room, the effects. And this one in particular, if you help this old man out, one person has to be elected, and you roll a 6-sided dice. If you roll 1 to 4, you basically are infected with the plague trying to help this old man. And you're going to receive 2 wounds every time you move through a door. It was particularly brutal. I mean, he was really sick. But if you roll a 5 or 6, then it's all happy. You actually help out this, you do a good deed, you help this guy out, and he gives you an item card. So perfect time to talk about items. You can only ever hold one item at any one time. However, there's lots of interesting items here, things that actually can help you out by redirecting damage. If a card or an effect tries to hit you, you can say, oh, guess what? You're going to take this damage instead. So there's also a lot of take that in this game. And like I said, in the end, it's all about having the most healthy limbs and surviving to the end and potentially doing your objective on your card and getting extra points. And it's, again, at the end of the game, it's all about points. Whoever has the most is going to win the game. So a few more notes on damage. So it's important to note that as you start out, each of your limbs and body is worth 2 points, and as you take damage, it lowers the point value of those limbs, and these cards come out and reflect that. However, like a severed limb, that limb is no longer worth any points. So as you progressively move through the grindhouse, you're going to be worth less and less, and you really need to try to hold on to those, and that's why there's a lot of interesting things by those persona cards, because as you travel through the grindhouse, you have folks that are trying to keep others alive while others are trying to make sure that they lose limbs. So there's this really interesting back and forth tug of war between the players as well as the grindhouse affecting everyone. Now, as you take damage, death is a real possibility. But that's not the end. You do become a ghost. So taking wounds to the head and chest or torso, those are the critical, deadly things that can take you out or turn you into a ghost, basically. But that doesn't mean you're out. There's a lot of different things the ghosts get to do at the end of each door. And potentially at the end of the game, they still may have win conditions that allow them to piggyback onto someone else and win as well. So you don't just give up as a ghost. There's still lots to do. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, the campaign is in its final week, so if you're interested in this game, definitely take a look at it. You know, there's a lot of storytelling going on here. It is pretty gruesome. There's a lot of like, what moments, like, what just happened? Yeah, some pretty gruesome, questionable moments that you're like, wow, that's pretty messed up. So be aware of those things. But I did find the storytelling, and I like games with take that. So it's really interesting how as the game changes and as you play each time, how those persona cards can really make you want to keep folks alive or damage them. And then again, as the ghost, you may be doing things there as well to win the game. You're not just out. So I like that you're engaged throughout, be it a survivor or a ghost. So ultimately, folks, though, if this looks like a game that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.